Hello to all. This is Xochitl with Sociology. I'm so excited to connect with all of you here today on Sociology, as I aim to discuss topics that are either about lifestyle, culture, positivity, mindset, growth, a lot of cool topics and a lot of inspiring topics. So I'm excited that you are here with me today to discuss another topic that is definitely something that I was affected by directly, and I'm sure that if you're watching this, if you were not affected directly, you certainly know somebody that was, or possibly related to someone that was. But before I continue and share with you guys what we're going to discuss today, if you could do me a favor and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Please definitely share this video with a friend or a relative, and definitely meet me down in the bottom in the comment section, and let's connect, let's discuss, let's compare notes. Tell me what you think about what I said, your perspective on it, and also, just if you went through this, how did you get through it? Just let's talk about it. That's what we're here for, to grow, to learn from each other, and to help each other out. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's topic is going to be first generation immigrant, that is. That's going to apply 100% to me, as I am a 100% first generation immigrant into this country. My parents left Mexico to the United States when I was 4, specifically to Arizona, which was literally like 45 minutes from the Mexican border. I mean, it was like right there. But even though it was just right there, we were still regardless into, living in another country. But as I've gotten older, I always reflect, obviously, on my childhood and some of the things that I experienced growing up. I compare notes with my sisters and my brother. I talk to my mother, of course, obviously, and then my cousins here and there, like just things and stories and situations, experiences. And one of the biggest things that I definitely can speak on is that everyone that we were surrounded with, whether it was a relative or my parents' friends in the neighborhood, or places that, friends that we would go visit, it was like being in the same house all over again, because the way that they spoke, treated each other, talked to each other, everything was just so normal, and it was very similar in a lot of the way things were directed, spoken, approached, or viewed. And some of those things are great, because definitely so many great, valuable things in my culture that I applaud to. But of course, there's a few things that you can't help but to think like, wow, it's our due diligence to change a couple of those things. And some of those things we really don't talk about, because when you're younger, you really, at least for me, like my experience with everyone around me, I'm sure they'll agree, is that we really couldn't dwell on anything. There's no such thing on dwelling. It's like, just move on, let it go. There's no such thing as depression. Like, if somebody makes fun of you or says something to you and you internalize it and you let it affect you, there's no such thing as that. They're like, there's no, that doesn't exist, and if you were overweight, that was a big one. I never was overweight, but I definitely observed if like somebody was overweight, if they got made fun of, and they had to just accept it. And you never know how that person was affected when they got older. Maybe they ended up having to suffer from being overweight their whole life. And me, I was always very skinny. So, and it's crazy, like now as an adult, I'm like, wow, like what do I need to do to gain weight? So it's not anything subconscious for me personally. It didn't affect me, but I'm sure for someone that was very skinny, maybe they were affected with that through their adulthood. Just little things that affect you, and we're just taught to just accept these opinions and these views and what people are saying to us. There's like, sometimes there's no filter. As you're letting the words what come out of your mouth, You're not even like, oh, wait a minute, let me not let those words come out. Let me filter this conversation and not hurt someone's feelings. And as of lately, I've heard a lot of young men and a lot of young women speak about this because they're being a first generation into this country or whatever country it may be. There's certain things that just carry on, and somebody's got to chop them right at the root before they keep going. And I think we have a responsibility to the younger people and the people that come after us to change some of this, some of these perspectives and the way that we treat people and talk and view things, because they are hurtful. And the other thing is that when things come at you or someone says at you, you just should just laugh it off. It's funny because at the moment it makes everybody laugh and it's funny, when really it could be hurtful. From a different perspective, definitely a experience that sticks out to me and always has. And I always think about this particular instance of a situation that happened to me. Being that I was a first generation immigrant into this country, I was placed in ESL, and I'm sure that most of you guys know what that means. ESL, which is English Second Language. And I have to be honest, that was a humiliating experience for me. Not because I was humiliated because I needed to learn English, but because of the way that I was made, that others made me feel in school. You were talked about, you were looked down on, definitely made fun of. And walking into this classroom, it was like the flashlight was blaring on you. Like they're going into that special room, that ESL room. And it was just a horrible feeling that you were made, that you were made fun of. And it carried on to, just the way you were viewed at school in general. And I still remember the specific day that I was in that class, sitting there, and my mommy and papi walk in. And I'm like, what are my parents doing in here? Like, why? Like, if it's not embarrassing enough being in here, why are my parents coming into the classroom? And my father had this way about him that he was so intimidating. Like, when my father was around, like, I froze like into a statue. I was like, whoa. Like, so anyway, they go talk to my teacher, and it turns out that my parents were going to go get, they were going to become naturalized U.S. citizens. So being that I was born in Mexico, I was going with them. So I'll never forget this day. I wish my mom would have combed my hair a little bit cuter. I had all this like flyaways, all this frizz, like no hairspray. I'm like, Mommy, really, this picture is going to be with me for the rest of my life. I still have it. I'm not sharing it with you guys. But anyway, so we went down to the courthouse. My parents passed their test. I didn't even have to get a test because I think it's either 7th or 8th grade. I'm not sure exactly which one it was. I think it was 7th. But anyway, that's when I became a U.S. citizen, and it was a big deal. But then again, it had like a bittersweet feeling to it because you were still treated as not good enough because you were from another country. And that was not a good feeling when people look down at you. And when I went to junior high, there was a little bit more of a mixture of different, I'm not going to say different cultures because I really didn't grow up around a lot of different cultures, but you saw more Mexican Americans and you saw, white people, and, that's really what it was. It was mostly Mexican. I'm going to say like 75% Mexican, maybe more. So really, it was predominantly Mexican, but still you had your second and third, fourth generation Mexicans, and they would actually look down at the first generation immigrants that didn't speak English very well. And that's something within the culture that I think is terrible, when you bring down and talk down about someone in your own culture because They might not speak as good, as clear as you. They might not dress like the way you approve of. Their likings are different. Their style of music is different. Even though I was very open, like I listened to different types of music, but regardless, I was still in that box of ESL, English second language. And that was like basically like the scarlet letter, you know what I mean? But it was like ESL. It was like on your back, ESL. So it was a unpleasant experience. And going into high school, it I wasn't so much in that box, but it was definitely something that was very, very obvious of who was first gen and second gen in my high school. I mean, it was so thick, the tension, that you could cut it with a knife, which was it's very disappointing that it's like that, but unfortunately that's the way it is. And I think that us coming from other countries, whether our parents, our grandparents, us, first generation, it's our responsibility to change the experience for others so that they don't have to endure these things and have to hold it in and possibly let them affect them when it gets older. Maybe it can affect their health. Maybe they struggle with their health, their weight, or maybe depression, or maybe they're not able to focus or have healthy relationships because of some of these experiences, because of however they were viewed, or whatever their experience may have been. Another few things that definitely pop in my head from being a first generation immigrant and experience is like speaking English and speaking Spanish and then speaking Spanglish. In my home, like growing up, we were not allowed to speak English at all. And then as comparing notes with other people that are, first generation immigrants that were Mexican also, they were not allowed to speak Spanish in their house. And when you speak to them, they lost their accent at a way younger age than I did. Not that I didn't lose my accent on purpose. It just happened that way. I mean, I wouldn't mind having an accent, but I don't even know how to get it back. So that was another one. My father was like, in this house, you speak Spanish. And if you speak English to him, you're completely being disrespectful to him. So we had to, follow the rules. The other ones, we were not allowed to date. Don't even think about dating or even looking at a guy. Like looking at a guy was like, oh my God, it's like you were like sinning, like the worst person ever. So there's not a lot of mixing around, playing with boys and girls, all that. Like it's no, not even, don't even think about it. We were not allowed to sleep at anybody else's house. We never asked because we already knew. My father was like, you have a bed, you have a pillow in this house, you sleep here. You're not going to go to anybody else's house and be sleeping at anybody else's house. So, yeah, it was just little things like that. And the other one is translator. You're not allowed to speak English, but if I need you to speak English for me to go translate for someone else for me, because I need something, then you come in with me because you're going to go translate for me. That's the way things work because I said so. Anyway, so that's definitely another one there. But I'm going to leave this topic with this: is my first gens, my second gens, and even third. If you were directly or indirectly affected by any of these topics that I mentioned, just you know what, pat yourself on the back. You got to give yourself credit because you not only are surviving your first culture, but you've also adapted to another culture, another country. You are made fun of for having an accent or not speaking clearly, but guess what? You speak two languages. And that is something that we don't give enough credit to ourselves for, and credit to our parents, because we don't know their struggle that they kept secret to themselves or that they swallowed for the betterment of their kids. Specifically, like I'm going to speak for me. Like I know my parents, like I can't even, that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother subject. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. Like Our parents have gone through so much that sometimes we think we're strong and that we went through this, but we have gone through nothing compared to what our parents have gone through when they have come from another country to this country. And they firsthand felt discrimination, had to do all the adjustments because they were already adults coming into this another country where we were kids. That we're more, we can gel a little bit better, we can mold a little bit better, and learn new traditions and customs, music, all that. Our parents were already like hardcore into who they were. So we got to give them respect and acknowledge them and give them, salute them and just, say, what, I thank you for what you did. And you got to respect them. But going back to us as individuals, we really have to just be grateful to overcoming certain things. And also, if you had a situation that really affected you from your childhood, whether it's, something that really affected you with your health or depression, just give yourself a hand and a pat on the back for overcoming and for making choices. But also, let's change the narrative. Let's change perspectives. Let's change the way we treat, our fellow relatives and our fellow immigrants, because we don't know what they're going through, who they left behind in their country. I was very fortunate that my parents, we crossed the border of 45 minutes when my family was like an hour and a half to 2 hour drive to see my father's family. My mother's family was from Baja California, which that was like a 6 hour drive. So they were there. Regardless, we just jump in the car and go see them. We were not jumping on airplanes, unfortunately. We weren't that lucky. We were driving. But think about the families and the immigrants that left their families and in a whole nother part of the world, and you're here and you've overcome and now you're successful. You a whole new person. It's our due diligence to change a few things to keep the core of who we are authentic, but there's some things that we need to change, and it's up to us, especially if we were directly affected with something. Take those things and turn them around into something positive and start creating positive habits for the next generations to come, and really just do better. Do better. So that's my conclusion with today's topic of first gens. I hope you enjoyed this topic as much as I did. I definitely want to circle back to this because there's so much more to talk. This is like a ongoing topic. So especially with so many different experiences, this is just my personal one, but I would definitely love to get your perspective on it, what your experience was. Please definitely comment below. Let me know what you think. And please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So I'll see you all soon. Have an amazing night. And thanks again for joining me here on another episode of Sociology. Take care. Bye-bye.